to discuss any, everybody has a shot.
Okay.
Are we, all right. It's, well, now 4:01, I'll call the meeting to order. It's August 12th, or no, it's, what is it, September 9th, 2024. We have first on the agenda, approval of minutes. Jacob? Do we start all over for you?
We should find him
Yeah.
How
fine.
much?
$1 a minute.
I have $1.
Okay, okay, any approval of minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minute. I'll second.
Shall we vote on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass.
sorry, I will have to abstain simply because I did not get a chance to review the minutes this week and I apologize.
Abstain. Okay, topics from the floor, anybody on Zoom who is dying to talk to us? Nobody? Okay. We do not have any new business. So we're gonna start with old business. The first item is Milton Creek Woodland Reserve. I sent everybody out a draft presentation, just drawing on everything that we've done prior. And just to get it all in one spot. I know it was just sent out yesterday, so I'm sure Jacob has lots to say about it. Yeah. Okay,
Got hit by a bus.
you did?
Lost it right here.
All right, we're starting off, we'll just go through it in order. For the presentation objectives is provide background on the project, overview of the potential reserve area. I mean, this is all we've talked about before. Discuss benefits of creating a reserve on city property, discuss proposed development of city property, discuss initial budget and resource considerations, and discuss next steps. Anybody have anything to say on this first slide? Anything to add, anything to subtract?
Sounds like a plan.
Not a slide.
Well, it's up here.
Or-
Get with the
that's
Lego,
next
Jacob.
step.
Okay,
So we talked about last time, and then we kind of reserved. it.
this is not a discussion of next steps. We're just going through the objectives. Do you have anything to add with the objectives? Okay. You're getting ahead of yourself, Gary. Yes, we are.
I'm fired up here.
Okay, next slide, please. Project background, building a trail along Milton Creek, identified in the 2015 master plan. We visited in 2022 and began discussions on expanding it. Designated Milton Creek Woodland Reserve in 2023. Initial work on the project was begun by Lynn this past year, and the project gained momentum. We had additional visits on the city and port property, began project scoping, initial engagement with city and port, and we did some further development, project developments, and we're trying to present to the city of St. Helens. Anything to add on this or subtract? We'll take that as a no. All right, we'll go to the next page. If we can get through this fairly quick. we got the overview of the reserve area. We're still looking to put a map in here, trying to define what we want. And get some more detail on maps, possibly with and photographs to show what we've seen and out on the area, on the reserve, potential reserve. As you can read down the list there, the biggest one is other.
I would say something about the maps, but thanks for bringing this one. Nick says that he's gonna figure out, the total acreage of this, the whole area that's here.
That's gonna be on another slide here.
But when we get to that, I wanna talk about that.
But just the size of the area,
Well, couple things.
naughty. Okay.
Well, you said
You wanna-
other,
Yeah, that's right.
literally there.
Next page, next slide, guess what we're on?
You're ahead of your time.
Yeah, you're just,
It's all Nick's fault.
Yep. As a married man.
we got approximately, we don't know how much, we're looking at both the port side and the city side. I think the city side is 39 acres. I'm not sure about the port side of the property, what they'd like to allocate towards it. Hey, Jacob.
Yeah, I understand.
And so before we continue with that, I called Jacob here today and he was so kind to come in here and talk to us about because we had discussed it last time about what if any issues with planning. So he's going to come in here and give us some detail of what needs to be done or what could be done with the reserve, considering with the what steps we have to go through to get through the planning process before we get to the proposal presentation to the council. So without further ado.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And it's not necessarily issues with planning, but just the question of how you would implement this kind of thing. And there's a variety of ways you can do it. But just in a brainstorming sense, one way to do it to make sure it sticks is to use that good old tool we have of zoning. So in zoning, we have a variety of zones, industrial, commercial, et cetera, so on and so forth. We potentially also have a zoning district called open space. We have a comprehensive plan designation that's an open space category. Comprehensive plan helps dictate what the zoning map says. And just for your own knowledge, what our comprehensive plan says is when Dalton Lake is annexed, it would be zoned as open space. And so that's kind of embodied in the comprehensive plan.
So just to be clear, it's then what we're talking about is urban open space zoning, right? Okay, just one.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to check it, on the Google or something like that.
And the comprehensive plan, that's the overall plan that helps guide what you do. And the goals of that are to conserve open space and protect natural and scenic resources and to promote healthy and visual attractive environments in harmony with the natural landscape character. And based on what I have heard on this woodland reserve concept, which is just a little bit, I'm certainly not an expert, but that sounds like that's your general goal. And since the city owns the property and the council agrees with it, I don't foresee pushback. Because if it was someone else's property, well, we're going to zone this, it's going to seriously restrict what you can do. That's the kind of thing that gets people excited. But if you have the council on board, that's something that we could probably manage. So that's just a zone change process, goes to the planning commission, city council, few months.
Okay, you said this comprehensive plan, is there a designated amount of area that, for each of these zones that you're looking at?
Well, from an area standpoint, because everything you're talking about here is industrial.
Mhm.
And so industrial and commercial are employment lands. And when we're changing the color on the magic zoning map, one of the boxes we have to check is, are we shooting ourselves in the foot as far as our employment lands?
Mhm.
Now, it's fortunate that we are currently going through an economic opportunities analysis. And one of the things that we've learned because we're going through that is when we inventory our employment lands, there's areas that we take out. Wetlands, floodplains, and things like that. And I think the majority of this, if not the area in its entirety, are amongst those areas taking out. So I think that will be an easy box to check as far as it impacting the employment lands.
A lot of it is within the 100-year floodplain, so that pretty much excludes development.
For the purposes of the economic opportunities analysis, which is what guides us checking the box, as I mentioned.
Okay. That was,
Basically, the bureaucratic stuff we have to worry about.
so,
Because I think there's probably only one area, that Camas Meadow, that's probably just outside of it because it's higher, but it's a Camas.
I feel like if it's surrounded by floodplains, it probably wouldn't be too.
So the Boise Park is in the 100-year floodplain. And the Camas Field is 2 to 3 acres. It's,
Oh, that open area, this kind of, yeah,
it does have Camas there. It's really pretty when the Camas come out.
it's really rocky and
Yes.
not a lot of
yes,
soil.
So, yeah, so, we're kind of looking at this area here and Nick's gonna kind of figure out how many acres that is, but I think only the Camas Meadow is there. And I would think that, Nature Conservancy, people, would like to see this saved for the future.
Because we're looking at this as in the future too, Jacob. We know the city doesn't have any money, but if we don't speak up now to try to preserve this for a trail in years to come, then it could never be.
Sure.
Jacob, I'll ask you another question. This is not your area at all.
See, I knew this would happen.
Well, it's Cherry Island. No, I'm just kidding.
You're leaving. So so you were talking about open space or urban open space. So this land on the east side of the creek, that is county property, I take it. It's not in city. Port property. It's port property, but it's county in the county, right?
yeah, it's not part of the city.
It's not
within
part of the city.
Limits.
It's not part of the city.
It is part of the city.
Is it?
It's in the city limits.
Yeah, that's within city limits. I'm not staring at you.
Yeah, I know, I'm trying to get out of your way so you can see it better.
So, Jacob, on this, well, so Scott, he's gonna meet with the port, probably with John. Myself, So if the port agreed, could this part of this be zoned as open space?
Sure, it'd be the same thing. You just want to make sure the port's on board.
That's why who would have to agree with that? The port would have to agree.
The landowner, yeah. I mean, you could potentially force it, but it's probably not
They're
the
very
best
cooperative.
practice.
They're very cooperative. Yeah, so far. They want this to happen.
It'd be a huge addition someday for the city if we had that as an open space.
Yeah, and the zoning, would be eternal,
Because it's in
well
the,
reversed.
because it's in the Parks and Trails Master Plan, and then the
Yes.
Dollar Green
Yes.
would go down and hit the railroad tracks and you'd come back into the riverfront.
Yeah.
Which I believe we've been talking about for quite a few years to be a dream too, so.
So this acreage is part of the industrial zoning right now as it is.
Yep.
And if we exclude that area from our industrial zoning, is that, are we gonna be deficient with the how much we should have in our inventory for industrial zoning?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at earlier about the areas that are taken out of that equation. And if they're impacted by things like floodplains and wetlands, they are. And so maybe some of that Camas area isn't, but that's one of the things we would have to evaluate is the amount of acreage, the amount of encumbered acreage, And is that enough to shoot ourselves in the foot? And of course, we're going through that process right now.
Okay.
Now, the preliminary numbers show we have a ton of industrial land. So right now, it's not a red flag, and it probably won't be. Now, the big disclaimer is, you know, you're gonna talk with the council about this, the council will have their concerns, and that could reshape the concept. And based on the council's reaction, you know, some of the answers I'm giving now could change. But that seems like a feasible goal, is that open space zoning.
Because the big businesses like it too, because they
Yeah,
have a
it's-
nice path behind their employees at lunch. You know, it's a nice
Livability.
Walk, you know, nice relaxing natural area, and you know, that make the industrial area, I would hope, more appealing.
Sure. Yeah, it could be amenity, yeah.
My work would not allow that.
I'll take a walk during lunch.
Do you have any idea where they might have that transfer station? The energy of what is that, the 5 acres there,
PG substation.
substation?
Do I know where it's gonna be?
Yeah, do you have do they have a better idea? Cause I believe it's supposed to be on towards the Cascade property or something.
Yes, the most recent better idea was something presented for the public hearing for the sale of the mill property, Project Arcadia.
Okay.
Substation. Right here.
Pretty close, pretty close. I have something to point to.
There's the parking lot we were told last time. There you go.
Yeah, it goes into the parking lot a little bit. I'll just draw a box on here, and
This is reasonably, facsimile.
It's- more or less there.
So right here.
Yeah, so you see that red roof building?
Yeah.
It's kind of,
So it's
Yeah.
pretty much all undeveloped land already.
more or less,
It looks
yes.
like there's a parking
Yeah,
lot.
more or less,
Looks
yes.
like there's a little parking lot there already.
Yeah.
So this is the general area for the PG parcel.
So it'd be,
Scott, Dana has her hand up.
And that's really close to the Boise Park right there.
It's, yes,
You
it
will voice
absolutely
your
is very close. And this will probably result, I'm glad you said that, probably result in a street on the north side of that PGE parcel, which would provide access to that park. Or different access, slightly different access than now. So there's a rock knob that'll have to be,
Okay, yeah, I see what you're talking about.
it's kind of right here.
Okay, for the people on Zoom, there's a lollipop dirt road that's next to Milton Creek. If you see that, follow to the very end. And you'll see a red roof by a white roof. It's that parking lot in between the lollipop and the two buildings. And probably that area the two buildings go. So, okay, Dana, you have your hand up?
Because I just had a question to make sure that I'm understanding kind of what's being discussed, but it sounds like if we were to propose and attempt to move forward with the rezoning of the land in question, that would more or less secure its use for our purpose and more or less buy us time to work on all the other components. Is that correct?
Yeah, the zoning once in effect is pretty much perpetual. And the uses possible would be determined by that, which would essentially be, you know, natural area.
Okay, and that can't be reversed later or,
Well, I mean, it could be, so, and that's a good point. You know, politics are like the wind. You
right?
just never know which way the wind's gonna blow, right? And with climate change, you really don't know. And it seems like climate change and politics are getting more chaotic together. So conceivably, the council of today can be completely on board.
Council of January might be,
And then, and let's say miraculously, this all gets done before the end of the calendar year. Which that's impossible, but for the example here, and then in January, you have a different council. Just has a completely different view of things, and it would be a public process. So, you know, it would allow you folks, for example, to be like, hey, you know, this is why we really wanted this, and this is why the former council supported it. So things, you know, unless there's a state law or federal law that forces us to not change it, which there really isn't in this case, it is potentially reversible.
Okay, but potentially, you know, it would be a reasonable first step that we could then continue our efforts with a little bit more, I don't want to say security, that it's a, you know, likely option. But is that, because that's kind of what I'm picking up, is like, if we move forward and request the council that we rezone the area that we're wanting to use, that it would be much easier for us to continue that path without worry of it being kind of quote unquote taken out from underneath us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it couldn't be reversed just on a whim. There would be a whole process.
Wouldn't there
Okay.
be a process to actually zone it as urban open
Yeah,
space?
yeah.
So,
Couple public hearings,
Yeah.
all the fun that goes with those.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
It sounds like it's possible at this time that we could pull this off.
And especially now that you know about it, you know that start putting it in the equation that we're thinking of this.
Well, and I've been just thinking about it on the side, thinking, well, this could come up, so, you know, that's why it was a little easier for me to bust out an answer when Scott called me earlier today.
yeah, very nice. Any other questions for Jacob? He's just here at the last minute, so I appreciate him coming. Anybody? Okay, I appreciate it, Jacob.
All Jacob's gonna leave.
No, you, actually, you have to stay late.
You were late.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Yeah, thanks. Jacob.
All right, let's get back to where we were. Where Jerry was talking about acreage on that slide,
I think we're on the next slide.
on the next slide here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Well, Nick has got it all figured out.
I hope so.
So, yeah, Nick's got it all figured out, so. What we were talking about, we were figuring out, you know, the square, once it. How many acres is the Boise Park? That's one thing,
Roughly.
roughly. Then there's a lollipop in between the. The old Boise Park and the Camas Meadows, then how big is the Boise Park? And then there's this tree area that's got this, you know, all these trees in here that are pretty cool. And
Canvas fields, right?
yeah, so there's, there's the Camas, the Boise Park, the Camas Fields and this, and he's just gonna kind of figure out how much acreage there is. The only thing that's, we've said before, that's not in a floodplain or a wetland or a riparian area is the Camas Fields. And I think we need to save the Camas Fields. It's kind of off the beaten track a little bit too.
Well, being that it's surrounded by a 100-year floodplain, I think it might be quote unquote protected, or it might be easier to get it in there. I don't know though, so I could be.
All the
assuming.
others in the 100-year floodplain, maybe they're willing to give us a little bit outside of the 100-year floodplain.
Yeah, if it's surrounded by the floodplain, I'd assume it'd be an easier ask than if it was to the side of it. So.
So, we're talking about, we're, it looks like we had thought it was about 39 acres for the whole thing. On the whole platted area. I don't know where I came up with that number. But we had, I believe, been bandied about.
Yeah, Lynn had that one.
Okay. And we don't know what the port is looking at for their, I think they have like 200 acres or something like that over there. I don't know.
Nick said he's also
No, it's
gonna
just gonna
figure
be-
out how many acres is over on their area too.
On the port,
Yeah, it's really easy. It's just Google Maps, you right click, you measure distance and you click around and it gives you a rough estimate.
yeah. Well, I mean, we're gonna hopefully speak with the executive.
They should be able to tell us too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and see what, what they are looking at themselves, what they'd like to contribute or what they're thinking. Substation, we're talking. The Boise Park, and we have the substation, we have the, we've already talked about the 100 years flood zone. We have the existing park, as we said, has the dilapidated structures from that. And we have the unofficial trail that runs along it. Go to the next slide. We have project components and phases. This is, kind of just like what we had last time. The identify, engage with stakeholders. If I can ask Nick, have you any thoughts? Because you were kind of gonna do some outreach.
Yeah, I kind of just created I can submit this for the record or I can read it right now, but just a step-by-step of identifying landowners, consult local regulations and zoning, kind of what we just did with Jacob. Involve local community groups. I think we've already talked about that though, but haven't heard from anyone yet. I did try to email Crystal King, I believe is her name, but she is not returning until
Okay.
late September. Mid to late.
So one suggestion I was thinking about is some of the old Boise employees, I don't know if they have any kind of organization, a LoosNet organization. They may be interested in, getting involved in the park design.
Were they a part of a union?
They were.
Do we know the union? Okay, I could look up the union, see if we can find a contact there.
You can find out.
Okay.
AW, PPW.
PPW. Thank you.
I would hope.
I was thinking of the CCA, the David Sass. I talked to him briefly, with the salmon and still had that come up the Mountain Creek, for educational purposes and that type of stuff. Getting them on board for that aspect on it. Looking for any other ideas, Dana, Lynn, Reed?
That looks pretty good to me.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
As far as phase one goes, are we going to consider moving forward on the request for zoning?
Well, we're just going with the stakeholders right now is what I was asking about. If anybody has any,
Okay,
can identify any other people that we could contact with in regards to getting them interested in the whole project.
Native American groups to maybe see if there's tribes out here to try to reserve that area as well.
That could be a possibility too, yeah.
Brandon, do you know of any like historical, like, not committees, but groups that would want to also maybe investigate it or see it preserved?
Think about it and see.
Okay.
I have a neighbor that is involved with the
Historical Society or something.
no, Native Americans.
Okay.
And maybe she could give me some guidance.
Okay, it's probably the Wapagana tribe too. Quick attack, sorry.
I got another one. I don't know if it's too early to say it. It's also, if we're talking about eventually we'd like it to hit the railroad tracks. We need to be kind of thinking about what would go on with the railroad tracks. Or to start at least putting the seed out there that the dream would be is it would hit the railroad tracks and then come back this way.
Aren't those railroad tracks already gonna be planned to have a trail on it from the
It's been spoken of, but
front?
I don't know if it's that much written in stone yet, if you know what I mean. So probably would be good for us to be putting that part out there too, that the dream would be that would connect with that. This way, just to be on the same side.
Well, just as a segue into that, another thought I had was, the Scappoose St. Helens Trail that they are studying right now. If that could be, actually get funding through that and bring it all the way down to historic St. Helens for the whole trail, using the railroad tracks there. And maybe get funding for some of the what's we're looking at in the reserve. So
Do you know if these railroad tracks where it's a private spur and where it's not? Where that begins and ends?
I would have thought the tracks were all at least in easement.
I know as soon as it gets to the former Boise site, that's all a private spur through there. So didn't know if where it crosses Milton Creek and there's a fence there where Warren owns that property, if that's the port spur or whose spur that is.
I'm not sure. I was just operating on the assumption that since there was discussions about having that as a trail on that. Because I think we had even discussed that back when we visited the site 2 years ago, that that was going to be that was the proposed idea at the time, and I think it still is. So that's something we might want to investigate. Further, thank you. For that.
Can I ask a potential stakeholder question and hope it's not too soon?
No,
Cons-
go ahead.
Considering the fact that the nearby area is utilized for the purpose of parking and whatnot for tourism, especially with the Halloween town and whatnot, could we consider the possibility that that area could be potentially used in the future as they reimagine tourism events, including Halloween town?
I guess I'm not following. You're talking
So-
about parking lot and then,
Yeah, because there's we're looking at doing walking trails and whatnot. And I know in
Yeah.
the past they've done some things kind of similar, but they'll be using the area for parking.
overflow parking.
Yeah. But if we're just brainstorming potential stakeholders, I mean, that's a potential use for the city's purpose. It was just an idea, considering I'm just remembering when they did like the walkthrough on Nob Hill and whatnot a few years ago, and similar concepts.
And I think they also did one at McCormick Park last year, like a haunted walkthrough. They had actors talking about
Yeah,
her, and that, I think it'd be even extra creepy to do it out into the Milton Reserve, just 'cause it's pretty dark out there, so.
Some people go out there and some
Think so. Sure.
of them don't return.
Yeah.
it's just an idea, putting it out there.
Okay.
The missing hikers.
It's gonna be a new movie for you, based in St. Helens. Okay, we have recommendations for reserve, just getting, again, other folks' input on it. I think that's what, for me, is going at it with the presentation to the council, is that we don't have as much backup from the community because they have no knowledge about it. We had, trying to edify them and how to go about that process. And that's again with, we've already gone through stakeholders. All right, then I'm gonna go on with the further discussions with the board. Jerry and I were discussing it and thought we'd call John out. I'll update that when we get to a little later in the meeting about the annual report, because this kind of segues into that. So we were discussing about, Terry, John and I, meeting with, Sean Clark over at the, port and get some, some idea what they would like to see. So,
And now that we know that we can be in open space,
yeah. If anybody else wants to come or everything wants input or anything, say, just go ahead and say now or contact.
If I'm available, I wouldn't mind if it wasn't an inconvenience.
Yeah, well, I guess I should have, qualified that because we have the quorum issues these days.
But that's simple. We thought we.
But we're talking about the port property, so it's not, it's actually
You can
not.
always put out a notice and say what's gonna happen, and if somebody wants to.
We have to record it, we have to go through the whole process, as I believe. No,
Whatever, so another person would make it more difficult.
I mean, we'll check, see how many we can, have and what the rules are interpreted to be, I guess. So we had just also stated something about during the annual meeting, of hopefully we'd get something, a presentation to the, council by the end of the year.
Mhm.
I'm not sure, if, how pressed we are on this right now. It seemed like we were thinking that, we should get it going here, but after speaking with Jacob here, it seems like the other Jacob. I figured that.
But if they're working on the plan right now, we probably need to not drag too much.
No, not Dre, but I mean, we don't have.
I still think we
pressure.
should try to come up with something for them by the end of the year. If we can.
Okay, you guys' thoughts? Anybody else's thoughts?
well, after we meet with, John and Sean, see what their thinking is, and if we can, we probably should move forward.
Second, that.
I think the faster we move forward, the better.
Okay,
Do we know a timeline on their zoning, project that they were working on as far as assessing properties?
well, I think what Jacob would just said was, it takes a couple of months, public hearings to rezone, at least for this area.
Yeah, but as far as, cause he said they're working on it right now to look at surplus, versus, what they have, so.
Yeah,
if
I'm not
we
sure
were-
where they are in that process. I think they, I think they call it an EOA. I don't remember for sure what the acronym was.
Cause I'd love to move forward on that. I think that's a really great idea, to at least hold the space for us while we work on other aspects of it, but, if they had kind of more concrete, results from their current project, that would be helpful. So if we knew a timeline on that, we could utilize that to move forward.
We could, when we speak with John, he might have some knowledge on that.
Because I think it'd be good if we know if we have like a large surplus of industrial land, it might help us.
You just, Jacob
Yeah,
just
yeah,
said,
We had a
Just
lot.
officially though, you know what I mean? Like whenever that's completed, then so you guys, whoever's gonna talk to the port, then we have that survey that happens, and then I think it'd give us some good leverage.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's gonna take a couple months. We asked now, we probably find out by January.
No, well, I think we're trying to develop what we're gonna be asking. So, yeah. This is, again, the phases, this is pre and post asking the council and also the presentation. City council agreed to set aside land. That's what we're looking for. Begin work on the city portion of the reserve. Obviously, and then it's just, the basics of what I outlined at the special meeting. With the phasing, still pretty much the same. So I think we can probably just go to the next one. This is a special meeting on Milton Creek here. We've gone through the benefits. I'm hoping everybody had a chance to give it a quick scan. If not, if you could, and if you have any suggestions on, any of this, please, get back to me, well, get back to all of us, so we can all see what's going on. So, just, I'm not gonna read through a lot of this anymore. We just need photos, we're looking at photos for, the presentation. I know Lynn and Jerry and I all have a number of photos that we can use. We know the benefits, we've gone through that, more photos, more photos. Benefits for creating and observing the property. We have, I don't know if, I have Ralph Brandon into, looking at the, prehistoric and historic preservation components of it. I'm hoping he's still willing. He's nodding his head yes, for the record. We'll continue on to the next page. It's just what we've done, so it's a composite. Economic driver. It's been in the master plan, 2.58 mile trail. Yeah. I'd like to just say a little bit about, the ADA portion that we're looking at. We had hoped to make the complete loop trail that we're discussing to ADA accessible. Yeah, I think maybe in the future, but it would be nice just to get a portion of it done by the rec center, have some, because that's very accessible with parking and all that right there. So as a start. So. There's a lot of decisions to be made here, like, is it a regional hiking trail or a hiking trail? And I touched a little bit about that when talking about the Scappoose St. Helens Trail. Would be a regional trail if it was included, that portion was included in that. So I'm just thinking as a way of getting some funding, if possible, through that that development, if they go ahead with it after they study it. We haven't really, I guess we haven't determined a ending point location, or, since it is a loop trail, beginning and ending, you want to call it, or where it starts in that. We need to make these decisions. And, and there's the future trail considerations. We still also have to make decisions on, rest and recreation areas, picnic table, benches. If we want a playground, there's a lot of decisions here that we have to, actually come to terms with.
Personally, I might say something.
Yeah.
Personally, for playgrounds, we got McCormick Park across the street, so I don't know if that'd be something we would really even need, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Then with benches, we can get plastic bags. Like donate and you get a certain.
Yeah, but we'd have to identify, try to identify locations, on which, kind of get a basic design on this. Would be nice to have to present, what we're looking at. Because it seems like we're going to go in there and we have an idea, but we don't have anything to show them. So
I would like to consider, keeping it more on the natural base, it is a beautiful area, it's pretty secluded. Having, large playground equipment, et cetera, could be I think more of an issue than a help there. Plus, we do have such large equipment nearby, but you know, benches, picnic tables, places for people to walk to and sit and relax relax in the natural elements, and really focus on the plants, the local animals and the local history, you know, maybe some plaques and well, I don't know about signage. I know that we have so much vandalism issues, but
Let's,
really
if I
keeping
could
it,
interject here just for a second, Dana,
Yeah.
there's the idea of the Boise Park there, because that's a memory for a lot of the people in the community, so it might be something that, you know, we'd like to, you know, at least some type of homage to it.
Like
Because
a
they-
swing set.
I know there's swing sets down there, so they have a memory of it, so. And it's like, you know, it might be good to at least have some way of acknowledging that. So,
Back on the picnic tables.
yeah,
They have the little barbecues there,
Yeah,
right? Like little
barbecues,
picnic
yeah.
table barbecue.
I'm kind of like Dana, though. I kind of see it more of as natural area
Yeah.
and the Boise Park, you know, where people go and, you know, they meet with family and friends and, you know, I don't really know if we need playground equipment there, even though it was, you know, in the past. You know, my thinking is kind of like Dana, that it's. But
but I mean, these are just things that we can go back home, think about for the next meeting. And then, you know, really start making decisions on these ideas. Gone to. And if you could, if you go through, hope everybody goes through this, you know, like, if you go back to the last slide. Come up with other rest and recreation ideas or areas, or, you know, if you ever seen something somewhere else that you thought was really cool and could be a component that we could add, you know.
Oh, those hearing, like if you go birding, sometimes they'll have that, like looks like a big cannon, but you put it to your ear so you can hear different birds and stuff like that.
It's an idea, yeah.
That might be like a Kiwanis or Lions Club or Rotary Club kind of thing.
Um,
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, well, if you have these ideas, write them down and bring them to our next meeting, because if we're gonna try to get this, you know, going, you know, we wanna start making decisions on what, you know, we want this the final idea for presentation at least. If we go to the next one, please. Signage. We've discussed that quite a bit already. Any other ideas about signs? If I was thinking the other day about having a sign for the geology of the area that, I mean, I think Lynn has done some research, or has had some people do research on that. Am I correct, Lynn, on that? Lynn?
Right.
Yes.
So this just kind of entered my mind, you know, I really like the little quarries that are down there.
Uh-huh.
I like to walk in them and explore like a kid there. You know, maybe we could have some kind of you know, historical that talks about, you know, the cobblestones that were. This was a big area to get cobblestones from. And
Yeah, maybe you have an idea of, you know, how are they quarried?
yeah, how they were quarried, you know, where the people came. where they-
Maybe,
where they
you know,
were from,
photographs.
Whatever.
You know what else we could do? Just mow it all down and put a big sports complex there.
We could.
Baseball diamond,
Might be a little biased.
and we could move the Red Sox here.
More of a Mets
I'm
fan.
pretty sure you get a little.
But I think when people start seeing the little quarries that are down there, it would be interesting for them to say, oh, this is the history of St. Helens, because I don't really know the history of St. Helens that well, even though I've lived here for 50 years, but you know, I have a feeling that the quarries were a really big part of the development of St. Helens, because there's so many quarries in this area. I mean, they go all the way, you know, huge area. I know where they're at. wants them. But I don't know the history behind them.
That's where we.
Brandon, who were the people who did the quarry here?
Mainly, so the quarry workers, mainly Scottish, yeah, there were a few Italians, but
Mostly Scottish.
yeah,
And so what happened to these cobblestones?
most of them went to Portland. So they call them Belgian blocks, so most of the Belgian blocks that you'll see in Portland came from St. Helens.
So speak or so around the demonstration story like I make cobbles.
I like how they did that. I mean, it's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I really like, I should probably, maybe I'll look that up.
There's a guy that came up to the museum a few months ago that he's a younger guy in his thirties, but that's kind of his area of interest and he has all the old quarrying tools and knows how they did it and so it was kind of interesting. I'm kidding, that'd be too expensive.
There might be a number of cobblestones.
Portland
left
has
over there.
mounds. I was told that they have mounds of those. in Portland. A lot of the streets were paved with those and then they just went over the top of it with asphalt.
Yeah, yeah.
And when they tore up the streets again, they have an area down there. I told you, it's just a big mountain of these things.
Okay, other desired features, don't have to say anything right now. I wish, again, next meeting, come with it, read through this. Think about it and come back with, if you have any ideas, come back with that and we'll go through. Try to narrow down what we want to go. How we want to proceed. Initial, if you go, yeah, there you go, thank you. Initial budget and resource considerations, I think this is one of the things that we really would, it'd be nice to have somebody take the lead on. I asked Dana, but she doesn't have the time right now.
Yeah, not until after Halloween season passes. I'm super busy. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It'd be nice to have an idea to, give to the city council, that, we have these potential funds that we can put in for. So it's gonna take a little research in that. And nobody's gonna say, I'll volunteer. I'm just gonna assign it to Jacob. He looks like he wants to do it. He just doesn't want to say.
Sure.
No.
Say between all my hours,
What's that?
say between all my
Yeah,
hours.
I know. So I'm not hearing anybody taking up that position of volunteer for this. We can think about it and come back and discuss it next time. So. I'm gonna put everybody on the spot at one time at least. Next steps. This is the last slide. Yeah. It's kind of like what we were discussing the phases. So, but I urge everybody to look through this as just, it is a draft and make your own, give it thought and give your own ideas to it. And so we can try to start hashing it out next time. I do want to get on to the other old business. Spent quite a bit of time on these. Next on the agenda, sign grant idea. Okay, Jerry.
Well, as I've said numerous times, I would like a sign be posted. Live there where the trail crosses. First Street there, no, River Street, it's actually River Street.
Yeah, it's River Street.
Yeah. Where Wyatt ends and River Street starts, I'd like to have a sign there. That, says. What it says here,
That's great. Let's.
Isn't that one that we already discussed and Buck, you were going to,
Yeah, I've gotten nowhere on that, to be quite honest.
I actually found a sign that said, caution and fence cliff. I'd like to have a sign like that. So people know that there's a unfenced cliff there, even though we're gonna cross the street. So we're not going by the, but I don't want people to fall off that cliff.
yeah, I mean, that might be something we could take up with the city itself and they could use their funds to put that sign up.
Oh, no.
Rather than use our funds, so we could use it for other things.
Well, I would like to use it our funds because dealing in the city. I've not had a lot of success dealing with the city, no offense, Buck. Oh, I really like working with Buck. So, yeah. Granted, but
What about
getting things
Lisa
actually.
and Sherry here?
How long do we have to spend out the money for the sign grant?
I don't think there's a limit on that.
There's no, okay, it's not like a performance-based grant or anything.
You know.
Yeah, I'd like to have that sign. I think not only, I just think it's a good idea. I think that cliff should be fenced as well, have a.
I still wanna talk,
barrier there.
I still wanna talk to our lawyer, our Chris Iverson.
Yeah.
Just see what their suggestions are. I'm not saying I'm for or against the sign. I really just haven't done anything since our last time, so give me a little more time and I'll do it.
But when you talk to them about it, ask them what they think about a protective barrier there, you know.
Yeah, I'll discuss the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, I mean, as I've said this to you times, and Lynn said it, and I've said it, and there's no reason that there couldn't be a nice protective barrier there that does not interfere with the view at all, you know.
Right, and Steve, when Steve was here, he was fine with that too. He didn't really want the sign, but a nice decorative barrier he was okay with, so.
Well, if we had a protective barrier, you know, it should be fine, but
Right.
I just think it's, I don't know.
There's so many.
When
lists in
someone
the
falls off
city already,
there,
though.
I know that there's only been 3 documented cases of people falling off there, I guess, but now that it's been cleaned off and it's a pretty vertical drop there. If you go off there now, something serious is going to happen.
All right. We-
Skateboarders, bicycles, cars.
Dana, Lynn, or Ray, do you have any other ideas for these sign grants that you want to add to the list of what Buck's gonna look at?
Civic Pride is on your list, Buck?
Kind of, yeah. I don't know. If we want to just, I don't know what kind of sign you guys are thinking of, like. We have signs that are the 2x6s on the 4x4 posts that are at every large park that says Sixth Street Park, Campbell Park. I don't think we have one that says Knobville Park, but the bigger parks all have that. Is that what we wanted, or do we want something on a post pointing from which side? Like just the regular blue sign?
Most parks have one that just say Brown in the name of the park.
Right. And so
Is there one there?
what do you want?
Civic Pride?
No, nothing at Civic Pride.
Yeah, there's no signage at all, so, I mean, at minimum, I would love, you know, whatever you would consider the bare minimum designating that it's a park. And then in the future, if we have more funds, getting something a little bit nicer, but I recognize the park itself there's not much going on there anyway, but most people don't even know it's a park, so just honoring it in some way would be great.
That's true.
So I have a
Buck
friend.
did-
Go ahead.
Buck did get a blue sign up on, I forgot the Eisenschmidt Drive, so it's right under the pool sign and it says Civic Pride. But nothing right in the park.
It says City Park and has an arrow pointed to it.
That's right.
There's two of them. We put 2 of them up. But the question about the Civic Pride sign, do you want it on the Eisenschmidt side where you can see it from like the parking lot and where the pool is? Or do you want one behind Red Apple? Do you want both? What's your goal?
You said you already put one up, excuse me, you already put one up over by Eisenschmidt Pool. I have not been over there in a while.
It does not say Civic Pride Park. It says City
City
Park
Park.
with an
Oh.
arrow directing traffic off of 12th Street into the parking lot.
Okay, I'm not sure which direction more people come from. I'm assuming a lot more kids and other people go to the pool, so I think that would be a good location, but if there's, is there a walking path from Red Apple over?
Yes, there's a path that crosses right through the center of the park from
Isn't it
the
paved?
parking spot to the box.
Yeah, I would love to see one on that side over by Red Apple with the walking trail.
And I think there should be one on the opposite end of the park too that says, you know, I'd be satisfied if it was just the typical round signs for now that we have at all of our other city parks.
That sounds
It's gonna
good.
be quicker and easier, so.
That's it, a post, a sign.
That'd be great.
I was gonna say, I have a friend with a CNC machine that does wood, so we could see if possibly if they'd be willing to donate a sign in the future.
Mhm.
Don't know what the legality or quorum issues or whatever with that, but
I don't know.
just throwing that out there.
What do you think, Buck? You mean,
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I just think that if we're gonna do that, we need to look at Campbell Park, we need to look at McCormick Park, the signs go entering those parks, and they should all match.
Yeah.
That's my thing, is I don't
Yeah.
want mismatched,
That's what I was
messy looking,
Yeah.
so.
I
So
think we've
kind of
gone,
pay attention to that sign when you go in, and the bigger parks have them, like I said, but not all of them. Tiny Human has one. Back in your guys' presentation, there was a picture of some people from a long time ago standing next to the sign. Yeah. If you remember that.
We got, I think, 3 at Nob Hill, 3 or 4 at Nob Hill.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things, was that from branding and wayfinding. There's a big thing with that. I think that the first sign that we should have for defining a park. And then each park can probably have an individual or creative with one at someday or something.
yeah, it sounds good.
Got ones that said Civic Pride Park. And then I've got a couple.
A couple of part about the signs.
More signs.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that the rules and regulations at Great Cliffs for the dog park, that sign should be absolutely replaced.
It has been
It has been now.
the day after you told me about it.
Okay, thank you.
Did we pay it?
Such fast work.
Did that come out of the funds from the
No, we
25?
already had the sign.
Okay,
Found
cool.
one.
And then I think there should be on the post as you're going in, there's one that says no glass bottles, but I think there should also be one there that says again, leashed area. And the.
Yeah, I kind of looked at that, and that can be labeled a lot better, and I believe we already have those signs.
Yeah.
So. you know.
And maybe an arrow that points like off leash park.
Right. The problem is we're getting so many signs on the post that it's getting below the 7-foot level to where people hit their heads on them, so I gotta figure out where to put all these signs.
The other one would be, as we've talked about, that still probably need to get you just something to show you the size with just a few that said like restoration, don't hesitate something. For some of our park, where we're doing restoration work and stuff.
You told me that you wanted like a 8-inch or a 12-inch that said sensitive area.
Yeah, or something. I got a picture of another one I can send you.
Yeah, send it to
Just
me.
be made out of that plain lightweight sign material.
Yeah, and those can be the corrugated plastic stuff. Those are cheap, so yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking to put 10 to 12 of those.
Yeah, send me that picture then, and
A couple of signs at Nob Hill are fading, but I don't know if that's anything down by the sewage treatment plant.
the blue ones, blue or brown?
The brown. It's starting to look older. I'm gonna go around this winter when it's raining with a scrub brush and a sprayer, so I can just scrub.
A lot of them, it's, if their sun's in their face the whole time, they fade out pretty good, but we do have extras of those in stock also. So.
Yeah. Hill.
30-second, I'll go straight for signs.
Oh, yeah. And then, I'm thinking that was probably it. Oh, and I was still asking for, you still have, but, one more pedestrian only sign at the end of 4th Street. and otherwise I don't.
That's at Fourth, right?
Yeah,
Isn't it before it kind of peels off right before the hill, South Fourth Street?
yeah, it comes up the, up
Oh,
instead of
so-
turning left towards
Oh,
my house,
yeah,
you
okay,
go
gotcha.
straight. Cause the branding and wayfinding signs actually direct you directly to that park entrance.
Gotcha.
Does anybody else have anything to say about signs? Anybody on Zoom? We'll go on to the next one, Sand Island contract.
That me? I think like
It
that
doesn't have a name on it.
official here.
Order some pizza before we get into this.
No, no, no. This is not gonna be very long, you know. So first of all, before I start my little speech here, I wanna say a couple things. One, when when we all talked about Sand Island, I was very much for it. And I still am. So the agreement between LLC, Sand Island Park and the city. You know, I think that's a great idea. The other thing I wanna say is we're an advisory committee. And, the final decision is made by the city council. But there has been some things that people have brought to me and some concerns that we've talked about. So one is the shuttle. So when we had the meeting the other day, the mayor said, it's not in the contract. I read that contract 3 times. I'm not an attorney. I'm glad I'm not the contract attorney. But it's not in there. And the mayor said that he thought it was a verbal agreement, the shuttle. The only, my thinking on that is that, and people brought this up, that there needs to be a decision made on it. If they're gonna have a shuttle that, runs people back and forth, then that's the way it should be. If they have to pay for it, that's the way it should be. If they don't have to do it, that's the way you should do it. Getting back to it, like I said, I think it's a good idea because we cannot getting back to my initial statement. That I think it's a good idea that LLC takes care of the Alex. We couldn't afford it. There's not enough people to take care of it, right, Buck? I would say that. And so one is the shuttle. That needs to be clarified. It's not in the contract. It just says, in the contract, it does say that the shuttle will take people who are paying for campsites. It does say that. The other thing that's been brought to my attention is the camp host. I went over there the Thursday before Labor Day. And there was one family that wanted to camp there. And then there was a man and his wife who were on a boat and they came there on a regular basis, he said, and walked around the island. I think in the contract, if I remember right, the camp host is supposed to be there the whole time. But, if there's no one there during the week, they can handle it. Maybe the camp host only needs to be there, Friday through Sunday because. But if that's the case, then the contract should probably be a little, there should be an amendment to the contract that says, the camp host, when I was there was no camp host there. I didn't think there needed to be a camp host there on that Thursday because there was hardly no one there. But had there been a camp host there, the family could have got a bunch of questions answered. And, I kind of directed them across to the St. Helens. Okay, the other thing that does that has concerned me, and I've brought this up before, and I know this has come before us a lot of times, is the expansion. Now there's, I think, 5 cabins that are in the process of being there, and there's also a garage for storing wood and other vehicles. If that's what the city wants, I'm good with that. But I think if there's something major being done to Sand Island, I think it should at least be brought to our attention so we can have some input.
So we can give it our
So, yeah,
advice to the council.
yeah, and then when the council, if they decide, the big thing I've said this a couple times, is that read the contract. And it basically says that if there's improvements on the island, when the contract is over, the city has to buy those back. And, I know when we first started discussing this relationship, we talked about Hertz. Is that right? Yurts. I'll get that one of these days, right? We talked about, maybe there could be yurts added there. Because they could be removed.
Easily,
Yeah. But you know, if the city wants to have cabins there, and the city council thinks that's a good idea, and the planning council thinks that's a good idea, if it's, you know, that's their, you know, their prerogative. But I still think we should at least have an input into. Okay. The other thing, when we met with Sand Island LLC they said that so the city is to get 10% gross revenues of what's there. Now, there is, in the contract, it says tax credits. And I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it would be nice if we got a report on, you know, how much money the city, you know, has collected from this. You know, how much they have given back for tax credits. The other thing,
Financial statement.
financial statement, so, you know, so we know what's taking place there. And I know that some of us, me, and some other people would have liked to have seen, you know, this is revenue from a park. And it would be really nice if, you know, I don't know how much this is, you know. If there's sufficient, it should come back to city, I'd like to see it come back to city park so we could, you know, hire another person. I don't know how much money it is. So with that said, I think that the relationship between the city and and Sand Island LLC is really a good thing. But I think there's some, I think it could be more open, you know, the whole thing, the financial, the expansion.
Transparent.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. It could be a lot more transparent. The shuttle, the camp posts, the expansion, you know, the revenue.
You know how we could get Brandon or needs to share how we can get
the
the financials on that?
So you as a commission could make a formal request to Gloria, and I think she'd be more than happy to come to a meeting.
Okay.
Didn't Brad say last time he hadn't made nothing? Cause he's investing everything back in. He's like, I haven't made a penny. He says he's gonna.
He's
make
still-
a penny.
gross.
He
Oh,
sells-
when he gets sand and he sells it back to the city who has no money and.
I thought he said he's been making nothing. Everything is just going invested back in.
But you still, you generate an income because there's people actually camping out there, so it would get a 10%.
Yeah,
The city
my understanding is
Or
it's.
or tax credit.
And I'm sure if you invited Brad back quarterly, he'd be more than happy to probably sit there again,
Yeah.
answer a lot of these
So
questions.
my understanding is, well, what the contract says. The contract does say that the city gets 10% of the gross revenue. So whether, you know, he actually, you know. And I know when this contract was written. There was a lot of things that were unknown. But if it needs to be amended, then it should be amended, you know, like if it's not feasible for the camp host to be there. You know, the whole week, then that's what it needs to say. If it says. You know, like the mayor said, it was a verbal, and you know how verbal agreements are. There was a verbal agreement that there should be, you know, that they were gonna run a shuttle from Memorial Day to Labor Day. That, you know, people could use that shuttle. You know, I just think that all needs to be clarified, but the money, it's 10% of the gross.
Revenue or gross profit?
No, not gross profit.
It's gross.
Just gross. And then the city, and that's the other thing, in there it says tax credits, and I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
It
so
didn't
it's-
explain it in the contract, you know, I'm not.
Well, we can ask, Gloria Bush, to come and give us a little bit of a.
I don't like the contract.
Yeah, well, but see, I don't think the city had ever done anything like this. And I just think that when it was put together, you know, there was a lot of, you know.
Do you know when that contract is up?
Whenever he decides it's up.
Yeah.
So it's.
Well, I
just-
think
Come in tomorrow
I
and say,
think
"I'm
it
done with it."
renews after 5 years,
No, 10 years.
10 years.
But he can come in and say, I'm done and we have to buy
But
everything.
they both have to agree to the renew. So after 10 years, I mean, the city could say.
No, I,
And then he sells it all to us.
Yeah.
We have to buy it.
and
Mhm.
then we have to maintain the cabins. That's the other thing too, you know.
Yeah,
My question is who, I mean, this might be random, but who determines the value of those cabins, you know, between cost and labor?
go ahead, Jerry.
In the contract, it says that each person they'll have a person that will.
Appraiser.
Well,
Yeah, that's what I want to use. They'll have an appraiser and they'll appraise it. And each one of them could have an appraiser, and if they both disagree, then they get a third appraiser. And, but that's spelled out very specifically in the contract, how that's going to be done, very specifically. That part's very clear.
I wonder if with the contract, if the company did something like the cabins that isn't stated within the contract, whether that can be actually appraised. They could say, well, that isn't part of, he had agreed on.
Well, you know, I've read the contract 3 times. It's real boring. And, you know, basically it says that Sandown LLC can do improvements on the campsites and everything. And there's one paragraph in there somewhere that kind of alludes, like, if the city will allow them to do it, they should do it. And
Obviously,
but
they've
before
allowed,
that happens, it would be nice if we knew about it, so we could put our input in, and then the city council can say, yeah, this is what we want to do. And we know the consequences of our actions. And maybe the benefits of the action. I think people come into St. Helens and people being able to use the island as a campsite, I think is really good. I think the only negative thing about this whole, well, there's those concerns. The only negative thing, in my opinion, is, you know, people before the contract, they had to get themselves over there and back by themselves anyway.
Mhm.
People can use Sand Island in the daytime all they want. So the only thing that's really taken away from the citizens of St. Helens are the citizens, in my opinion, is they cannot camp there overnight. Now, can they use the east side of the island that's not city property for that? I don't know.
You can camp underneath the water for free. So wherever the general water line is, if you're below that, then it's technically free camping. 'Cause you're not on that.
Well,
property.
some of it's not, some of it's
Along the
marine
Marine board.
board property.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking
That's
about.
what I was talking about, the east side of it, some of it is not.
I think it was when we did the tour, wasn't it everything like all the sand area?
Yeah. Well, on the,
We have to be careful because we
Side.
don't want
The east side.
people to move into those areas.
Probably hard for that, just for transportation. I wouldn't be too worried about that, but
That was one of the
It's still an
advantages
idea.
of having them out there, is that we were starting to get some people starting to move out there, so. I would still, once again, like to say also, we do enjoy that he is taking care of the island,
Yeah.
because that was a real headache for us to get the garbage off of it and everything else, so. We do enjoy the job that he is doing out there. Want to stress that part.
Yeah, I feel the same
Because we
way.
have questions.
I feel
So-
the same way as you, Howard. that
what do you think, Jerry, about, and Brandon, making a motion of having anything, you know, all with the contract or whatever,
Well, how about,
that we give, notification and we can give it advice.
well, the one thing we could, one thing.
Consideration.
Right now is, who did you recommend come and talk to us about the revenue?
Gloria, our finance director.
You know, then I would like to make a motion then that Gloria come and give.
Well,
us-
I can just call her and she was most likely will come in.
I thought we were supposed to make a motion.
I was talking about a motion about anything that's happening out there, you know, that is needing like a permitting process that it comes to our attention that we get to review that prior to any decision being determined. I thought that's what you were
No,
speaking of.
well, yeah, both of those two things. Maybe they're totally two separate things.
I think we could first off just, I could call Gloria and see if she's willing to come in and talk about it. I don't know if we need a motion.
I just think if you do have Gloria come, she's only gonna be able to answer that specific question. If you really wanna get into this and talk about it, I think you're gonna need Brad to come again. I think you're gonna need John to come again and just.
Cause it's just she's just gonna give us.
You're only gonna find out
numbers.
so much talking about it here amongst yourselves, but you're gonna need to get those that are involved here to answer the questions that you have.
We're just curious more
We're curious.
if if the city's ever made anything from it. What is
She could answer that, but she's not gonna be able to answer
Yeah.
any of these other questions.
the other question as far as this being
Or I
notified,
could-
that the council?
How about this? I call her up and get those answers. And I can
Would there be
relay
anything
it to you.
against like the Open Meetings Act or anything, if you're going outside of the commission to get that information, or is it?
I don't
I'm
think so.
just wondering, I'm not trying to say really wrong, but just wanna make sure we're good. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Do that or
She's
just
not a-
invite her to come and give her.
She's not part of the commission, so.
Okay. I could always do a FOIA request too. But wouldn't want to.
No. So. I'll give her a call and see if she'll give me, she'll be able to get the answers and bring them back. How's that sound?
Get it right.
It won't be October because I'm away in October. If you remember Dana,
I am too.
Dana?
Yes, I remember, yes.
Okay, good. So I'm hoping to zoom in, but I can't be sure about my abilities to do that. So Dana will be chairing the next meeting then. Also, I believe my parks updates are in October, so I might try to switch with Jerry. And he'll do his in October and I'll do mine in November, because I think this is in November.
I'll do Columbia Marine Park and Godfrey.
You're gonna do,
I'll do the Botanical Gardens and Godfrey.
okay, I'll get together with you about that. Okay. And so we're done with Sand Island. Let's go with we're still in old business as we discussed the annual report.
Sorry, do you want me to put this Sand Island back on for November then?
You guys want on for November and discuss it more
Yep.
after I get that
Thank you. Helpful.
information?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, please.
We need a vote on it right now.
It's just an agenda.
Okay.
So just want to say that we gave the annual report last week. I think it went pretty well. Woody, Jerry and Howard and Nick were with me, so.
We ganged up on them.
Yeah, we ganged up on 'em. We had 15 minutes and 45 minutes later, we were done. And we were rushed even then. So I think it was received fairly well. So I think, yeah, it was.
I think they enjoyed our conversation. I think that they
Yeah.
would love to next year say, hey, we want 45 minutes instead of
Yeah.
15. So we don't feel that we're.
Yeah, but they didn't give me limitations when I
Yeah,
submitted an annual report
so,
until.
because it's kind of
Came
a
out.
yearly chance to have a joint meeting. We,
Yeah.
you know, planning commission has joint meetings 2-3 times a year with the city council, so I think it's reasonable for us to ask to have that time for like kind of like a joint meeting.
You guys have any other things to say about the annual report?
It went well, first time doing it, so
Yeah,
trial by fire.
yes, I also want to thank Lynn for doing the draft for us.
Thank you, Lynn.
And all right. I also wanted to bring up parks assignments, since I'm not sure if Nick and Reed have really been.
I don't think
So-
officially, no, we've just expressed our interest in specific parks, but not officially been assigned them.
How about Reed? How about you? I'm not sure where you're at with that. You expressed interest in any particular park?
We're the BMX track. I'm trying to think of what starts with an M, right?
McCormick?
Yeah, McCormick. I want to say I was positioned over that one, but I'm not too sure. It's a pretty big one, so
Yeah.
but
Me and someone else,
And Paul's on BMX, and I mean, we can have more people on it too.
yeah, I mean, and I'm fine if they need extra help. I'm more than happy on that one. Otherwise, yeah, nothing in particular. So
I think Gray Cliffs is also available. Dana is that correct, Dana? Where was that Campbell?
Campbell.
I'd
Campbell's,
expressed interest in Campbell
okay,
and with.
yeah, Campbell's yours,
Yep. So
McCormick's yours. Reed, you got McCormick?
official.
And I'd almost like to give up Sand Island and take Great Cliffs instead.
Well, I heard you'll take Great Cliffs. You still have Sand Island.
On here, it said, I don't know, I might have been sleeping.
It's hard to get to Sand Island, but Great Cliffs I go by.
But on here it says Civic Pride Park vacant.
Okay.
No,
I'm not sure who that is.
Parks already.
I'm not sure who that is.
Civic
Vacant?
Pride, that's by, the swimming pool,
That's-
Yeah,
right?
that's the one that's.
That's-
It's a little elevated a little bit by the, okay.
That's the one we're just talking about,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
po- signs. Reed, what do you think about that? That's not too taxing of a park.
Is that Gray Cliffs, he said?
No, I'm talking about
Civic Pride.
Civic Pride.
Oh,
It's-
Pacific Pride. Yeah, that,
Civic Pride, it's right, it's not our best park. It's,
And then Walnut Tree.
no, I like Walnut Tree because one park,
It's a very under.
Yeah, just
a
a
park,
tree.
just about a tree. How can you not
It's
like
like
that?
Sixth Street Park. I got two baseball fields. That's it.
So Reed, you're all right with that?
yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
I got three parks here. So yeah, you guys want to take McCormick? You guys?
No, you're still on McCormick. We can have more people than one.
With the land size, it almost needs more than just one or two people, I'm thinking.
Well, you do have a lot to do with that, researching all the funding for the Milton Creek Reserve that you accepted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be right on that.
All right.
Yeah, wait, let me call the Oregon Lottery. See
Yeah.
if they donate to parks.
That's
Allegedly.
Nike donates to parks.
pretty much what I have here. Anybody else on old business?
Say I'm quiet on that. Did we have our counselors report though?
Hand up, Scott.
Lynn?
Yeah, I just wanted to say Walnut Tree Park, my husband mows the lawn and we do a cleanup around the tree. They've got bulbs there and I do the cutting of the rhododendrons.
Oh, good. Thank you for that.
So since we're talking about this, Scott, I know you want to say it later, but I have Godfrey Park, the Columbia Botanical Gardens in November. So I'm gonna do those next month.
Yeah, okay, and you have me on October, right?
Yeah, you've got Columbia View Park
And-
in October.
And Heine Hammond, I believe.
That is correct.
Okay, we're switching on that.
Right. So I'm gonna do it next month. You do it too. It's okay.
Okay. So any other old business? All right,
Have you been to McCormick? I'm sure you've been to McCormick, right?
I disc golf there all the time.
yeah,
Okay.
staff report.
I don't have a lot, just a lot of regular routine maintenance, typical mowing, keeping up with that stuff. Softball's all starting to slow down. That'll be ending pretty soon. Parks will be slowing down too with the weather and school in session. We have summer helpers until the end of this month. We're gonna be on in another week and a half. And replacing benches, picnic tables, the wood, replacing them, painting them. We did have the parks where we store our gasoline and diesel at McCormick got broke into. They cut the corner of the fence, went in, attempted to siphon gasoline out of 3 full lengths of hose all the way down to the creek. Very unsuccessful, but left a bunch of trash there, and so we don't have any surveillance on that site. We didn't at that time, so we don't know, and they haven't been back, so hopefully it's a one and done. Other than that, same old same.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Buck?
On hole 14, there's a tree that's collapsed right on top of one of the disc golf baskets, or a place where you can put the disc golf basket. So it's just stayed in one spot the whole time. Not sure if it's something we can do to remove or not.
I just want to say thank you to Buck for moving our little library at the Walnut Tree Park. It's a great location. And for moving the bench on the overlook and taking that out. And we do have some garbage that's been dumped down below the overlook. And all of our signs have been marked with the graffiti and all of our benches. And there's paint that was poured all over the first one, and it's really thick. I'm not sure we'll be able to get that off, but maybe you could take a look at it and see if you can suggest something. I went down and I think the maintenance staff cut around where the kiosk is and all the way down across the little road there where they just in that whole area. I guess you did that. I'm not sure, but I went down there the Friday before to put brochures in the holders. And I came back and it was all over. It hadn't been taken off the roadway, the blacktop or by the kiosk. So I blew it all off, even in front of the water treatment plant. So that it was
Sure,
nice.
We'll have to look into that, but yeah, they should have cleaned it up. I'm not
It was
aware.
real easy. I had a blower, electric blower, so.
Oh, well, good, thank you.
Anything else, Lynn?
Nope.
Thank you.
I've got a quick one, if I can add to it. A few years ago, you gave us a letter just saying that we had permission to be cutting a few cherries. I was wondering if you could update that and just do it again. I've got a few that are 4 or 5 inches that I'd like to get in the next little bit. Okay. We've got a couple years since that letter, so I think it probably get this to have a fresh letter in my inventory.
All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Buck?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Buck, are you gonna be around tomorrow in the office so that I could drop off some brochures on my way into town?
Yeah, I should be there.
Okay, great.
And if not, you can just drop them off to anybody that's there.
Okay, perfect. I didn't know if it was open, if you were out.
There's usually someone there.
Okay, cool. I'll drop off a bunch then.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
I take that's it. That's all of it. We'll go to council's report.
I don't have a lot either. Just want to thank you for showing up in force to the meeting and thank you for your presentation. It sparked some good conversation. I was just thinking, if you are interested, we do have regular meetings scheduled now with the planning commission, joint planning position and city council meetings. We haven't done something like that with the Parks Commission, but if you're interested, I could propose it, even if it's just once a year. I think it'd be good to
Yeah, it'd be good to have an annual,
have a good discussion.
sit down.
If you're open to that, I can suggest that and see where it goes.
So should we make a motion to that or should we, I don't know.
I don't know at this point that you need to, but we can see.
Yeah,
See where
just
it goes, see what we
see
need
what-
to do.
I think you represent our interests.
Yep, I'll let him know. Also just wanted to mention, I don't think you're out of line for raising concerns about Sand Island. I was just contacted by a citizen this morning with similar concerns, so I think same citizen you've talked to, Jerry, but regardless of what's going on there, regardless of who's leasing the island, it is a city park, so I think this group does need to be kept in the loop and should know what's going on there. And then the only thing else I wanted to mention is, I saw this on social media probably about a month ago now, but there was a small group, they were hoping to come to one of these meetings, and I don't think they've come yet, but with some interest in starting an RC track in one of the parks. So just starting that conversation, seeing if there was a place for that. Somewhere for kids to take their remote control cars and play around.
There is one right next to the BMX track. There's like a little.
Somebody said there was kind of a, yeah.
Yeah, they're there all the time driving there.
It's like a fun track.
So something for you to think about. Apparently there is some interest out there. So,
Have them come in and talk to us. And we'd love
Talk
to.
to people at the McCormick Park who's been assigned to that, huh?
I see people there all the time with their RCs.
So discussion items. Well, if that's it, I just want to say one last thing is about the Milton Creek Reserve. Just want to remind everybody that we agreed in the May special meeting to all take part in it. That it's a mission-wide thing. So I just want people to read, what's been sent by people and keep up to date. You don't have to do any more than that, but keep up to date. And if you can brainstorm on some of these things, be great. So we can, try to keep this more focused.
I do have one note on that I forgot to mention. If you're gonna go down and walk that trail behind the gate that's across the road, at least send me a text message, whether it's a Saturday or Sunday or what day it is, so that if law enforcement is down there, I can tell them they don't need to pursue you because they will. It's, we've had a lot.
Logs and stuff.
Yeah, even along the creek, you're
Yeah.
pretty much trespassing at that point, but
Where's
if you
the
let
setback?
me know
I'm confused.
where I met and talked to you,
Okay.
you
gotcha.
guys right at the gate.
Yeah,
If you
that's
go,
what I thought.
if you go past anything that says no unauthorized people beyond this point, make sure you send me a text message or something, just so that, because police see you, they'll be on you.
Okay.
But the,
They're
when
doing
you
a good
use that
job.
trail, they're,
But so are homeless people.
yeah, but the people walk the dogs back there, or have walked their.
Well, we just had people walking the dog back there with warrants for burglary too, that were actually looking at things they shouldn't have been looking at, so.
Well,
I'm
I
just
know you
saying,
had
shoot me
some-
a text, whether.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying that people have walked their dogs down there, so they,
But it's behind the gate, so just send a text just to cover your butt, please.
See why?
okay,
Yep.
Okay.
Lynn?
I have one more thing. There's
Okay.
gonna be a Dalton Preserve cleanup on the 28th of September. That's a Saturday, from 9 to 12. And I'll send you all the details, Buck.
Okay. But do you mean by where they drop off all those logs and stuff, that little in between the bridge and the logs going back in that area?
I'm talking if you go down Castor Road, like you're gonna go to the parking lot of the paper mill, there's a gate across. the
Okay,
road
gotcha,
there.
gotcha, gotcha.
Anything behind that gate.
Yeah, gotcha, okay.
Okay, is there anything else? Anybody just has to get off their chest? All right, we're adjourned.
Get out of the.